The sound of her engine faded into the white distance, swallowed by the storm. I stood in the doorway of the cabin, stitches still burning from my appendix surgery, watching her taillights disappear like dying embers. Snow drifted across the porch in slow, mocking spirals. I felt it settle on my face. Sharp, quiet, clean. 2 weeks of food and firewood, no phone, no way back for 200 kilometers. Her final words still echoed, metallic and amused. "I'm going to the Maldives with my boyfriend, and I'm taking all your savings." Then the window rolled down again. "Oh, and I changed the locks on the apartment." A wave, a laugh, and then nothing but the storm. I listened to the silence she left behind, thick, absolute, and felt something warm slide through the cold inside me. Not fear, not shock, something else, something slow, measured, a kind of clarity I had not felt in months. The cabin creaked as the wind pressed against its bones. My body trembled, not from the cold, but from the simple, precise understanding that spread through me. She thought she'd left me trapped. She thought she'd already won. And she had no idea I wasn't supposed to be in that cabin today. She had no idea what was waiting for her at the airport. I closed the cabin door and smiled. It hadn't started with the cabin. It hadn't even started with the Maldives. It started months ago. Subtle things, late-night work emergencies, silent phone screens, trips to visit her sister, the faint smell of someone else's cologne every few weeks, soft but unmistakable, the kind of details people dismiss, the kind of details I pretended to dismiss too, because I loved her, or because I wanted to believe the version of her I had memorized. But real betrayal is quiet when it begins. A whisper, a change in breathing, a different kind of smile. One night she came home too relaxed, too glowing. Her eyes sparkled with something that had nothing to do with me. And when she kissed me, absent, distracted, it hit me like a subtle punch. She wasn't mine anymore. She hadn't been for a long time. Still, I said nothing, not because I was weak, but because I was listening, studying, waiting. The real confirmation came 2 weeks later, when she left her laptop open on the kitchen counter and went to shower. I never meant to look, but betrayal pulls you toward the truth like gravity. An email draft. One line bolded. He won't last long alone at the cabin after his surgery. Another attached file, a flight booking, 2 seats, her name, and a man I'd never met. Not a single mention of me. Not even a lie to make herself feel better. Just a plan, a removal, a cleanse. That was the moment something inside me froze, not from pain, but from clarity. She was done with me. She thought I was already fading. But she hadn't checked the date on the documents she stole from my desk. She had no idea what I changed 2 days earlier. She didn't know the airport security alerts would trigger the moment she scanned her passport. And she didn't know who they'd ask to come identify the fraudulent charges on my account. I didn't confront her, not once. Not even when she laughed too loudly at her phone on the couch. Not even when she said she needed air and came back smelling like unfamiliar aftershave. I stayed still, cold on the outside, calculating on the inside. I checked bank statements. She'd been siphoning money for months. Small transactions, spread across different platforms, masked as bills and subscriptions. But she got sloppy. She transferred a large amount to buy those flights. My name was still on the joint account. And there was a detail she didn't know. I had set up a security trigger years ago. Anything over a certain limit froze the whole account and flagged it as possible identity theft. She didn't notice. Her boyfriend didn't either. Why would they? They were already celebrating. Meanwhile, I contacted the bank using a secure email, requested monitoring, filed a silent fraud alert. Then I called a friend at the airport's security division, told him my passport had been stolen, told him the thief might attempt international travel. He flagged it, quietly, efficiently. Then I packed a small bag. Not for the cabin, for the Maldives. But I never told her. When she said, "You need rest, go to the cabin for a few days," I nodded, calm, obedient. It wasn't her voice I heard anymore. It was the voice of someone who had already dug their own grave. The morning of my surgery, she smiled at me with rehearsed concern, held my hand, said she would take care of everything. She did, just not the way she intended. When she dumped me at the cabin, a place she assumed would isolate me, I felt strangely relieved. The moment her car vanished, I opened the floorboard under the old cot and pulled out the satellite phone I had installed 3 weeks earlier. One call to the airport. "Is the alert still active?" "Yes," they said. "We'll notify you when she arrives." I leaned back, breathing slowly, and waited. She arrived at the airport 3 hours later. I wasn't there. I didn't need to be. Security contacted me through the satellite phone. A calm voice. She attempted to board. The passport flagged immediately. "We've detained both of them." Both. Perfect. They thought it was a mistake, a glitch, an inconvenience. Then they were shown the account freezes, the flagged transactions, the printed reports of unauthorized access. My reports, my signatures, my evidence. And then came the officer's final question to them. "Do either of you know why his passport was reported stolen?" I imagined the moment her face shifted, where confidence broke, where certainty cracked open like ice under pressure. The officer told me her boyfriend tried to argue. She stayed silent, completely silent, because she finally realized I knew everything. They released her hours later, not arrested, just exposed, just cornered, just stripped of her perfect little plan. I arranged a ride from the cabin and met her outside the airport at dusk, where the cold wind whipped her hair into frantic shapes. She saw me and froze. Not guilt, fear. True, unfiltered fear. How did you?" I raised a hand. "Don't talk." She swallowed, stunned by the calm in my voice. I handed her a small envelope. She opened it with shaking fingers. Inside were the financial statements, the fraud alerts, the transfer logs, the recorded attempt to book flights with stolen funds, and finally, the notice of account freezes, effective immediately. Her breath hitched. My money?" "Our money," I corrected softly, "until you tried to make it yours." She looked at me like she didn't recognize the person standing before her. "You planned this?" she whispered. "No." I stepped closer. "You planned something cruel. I simply planned the truth." Her boyfriend stepped out behind her, furious, confused, humiliated. I didn't even look at him. "This," I said, tapping the envelope, "is your Maldives trip." Then I turned away. No yelling, no satisfaction, no threat. Just distance. And the knowledge that she had destroyed her own escape. The snow had stopped by the time I returned to the cabin. The world looked cleaner, sharp, quiet. I sat by the window watching frost creep across the glass, thinking about how easily people believe cruelty makes them powerful. It doesn't. Cruelty makes them predictable. She thought leaving me in the cold would break me. She never understood that I had learned how to survive long before she ever tried to kill the warmth in me. I didn't need revenge. I just needed the truth to land where it belonged. And it did. As the fire popped softly beside me, I felt something loosen in my chest. Not forgiveness, just release. A final, gentle severing. By morning, she would know the full weight of her choices. By spring, I wouldn't remember the shape of her smile. The last ember in the stove cracked, sending a thin curl of smoke upward. I watched it fade, just like she had. Only one thought remained. Quiet, brutal, and final. Some people bury you in snow, but forget you learned to walk on ice.